Guys, so we are doing a review of the Castle Tower project, the little mini project we've been working on. I'm going to kind of combine it all into one big thing, and rather than doing it all separately, or maybe I'll do the flag separately. I don't know, but your job is to create a castle tower, a moving flag or banner, or all of the above, and like you see here, and then complete that into a rendered movie. Some people go the extra mile. Got their flag. This is low polygon count modeling to make it look like its old video game. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'll be wasted. This one is flags and banners. And then we're also going to have a moving sky. If you look, some of them have clouds moving around. So animated sky, animated flag blowing in the wind, and a castle tower. We're not doing a whole castle. We're not even doing the landscape around the castle. We're trying to create a little perspective of a tall tower and then get the flag on there somehow so it looks good. There's several types of towers that you can pick from. You can do square towers, round towers. It has to be a two-tiered tower. Here's a two-tiered tower with the square and round. Here is a the same tower without the flag. Here is a square tower with a round tower and a like Rapunzel, fairy princess type of witch's hat. I don't know what you'd call that. Tower top. This one has more of a rectangular tower top, or triangular, I mean. You can, all kinds of different towers that you can do. And if you're like, well, I don't know what towers look like, Mr. Dubin, then you could always go on the internets and, look up Castle Tower. And go to images, and it's going to come up with dozens of examples that you can use as inspiration for your own. All kinds of good ones. These are 3D models, but you can do a double tower with a bridge. We're not doing the whole castle or a keep, so just a single tower. Maybe that one. I wouldn't do the whole thing. Anyhow, there's just tons of examples that you can go through and get some inspiration. You don't have to do them exactly alike, but you can get some cool ideas on how you want to do it. Okay, so let's get started. So the way that you start would either be, if you want to do round or square, I'm going to start with a square bottom, and we'll just use a cube. We don't have to make this, and we're going to be looking up at a perspective like that, so we don't want to make it too tall, but we always want to go to grouch shading and lines so we can see our segments, and then we have to add more segments to this. And so when we add more segments to this, this is going to give us the ability to bring out battlements. How many segments do we want to add? All depends. I think, if I remember correctly, tube shape was odd and a square was even numbers. So I don't want to do an evil number, so we'll do 8 by 8 by 8. We'll see if this works out. If not, we'll switch plans. So we're going to go ahead and mesh and conversion current state to object, or make editable, and then we'll go to our polygons tool, and then let's see if we can make this. If I was right, if squares were even, and yeah, I'm thinking that I was wrong now. Oh wait, no, I'm right. Here we go. Remember, your shift key adds. My tool's too big, so remember you can go down here and change that to a smaller size. I haven't done this castle in a while, so let's just make sure that I still got it. Shift key adds. Oh yeah, see, definitely running into an issue here with even numbers. I want to be able to get the, so maybe the circle is even and or the tube shape is even and the square is odd. Let's backtrack a little bit here and double check that. Since we're doing it on the fly. I just want to try a couple of things here. Should have figured this out before we started, but I didn't. So we'll convert it. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, I was right. I just had too many, I think. So I went 5 by 5 for my segments down there. So let's start over. We're going to go 5 by 5 on the segments. So before we convert our shape, we want to go down here and add our segments to each side, and then we convert it. And then we go to our polygons tool and we can do that. So 5 by 5 worked. Other numbers will work too, but when we take those 4, we're going to go ahead and extend those up. So I'm going to extrude them up to make the battlements. And then I'm going to do a Create Tools bevel to kind of like get that extra detail there. And then to hollow it out, I'm going to go ahead and, oops, I didn't select it too much. I'm going to just kind of select the interior part there, and then I will extrude that, but I'll push it down pretty low, pretty far. Not all the way, like through the floor or anything, but because we're going to create some like little arrow slit defense things here in our tower. And we have to make a tool. We're going to use a bool for that, but we have to make a tool for that. So I'm going to create another cube here, and this one, I'm going to go back to my modeling tool, and I'm going to squish it and scrunch it and make it into like a little, like you'd see on a castle where they would be able to shoot arrows at the enemies and stuff like that. You see that on Fairy Princess ones too. Kind of put it in there, right there in that middle part. I'm going to add more segments to this cube, a bunch. The more geometry that these things have, the more easy the bool will have a time of it. I'm going to also copy that cube and rotate it 90 degrees so that there's 2 of them. We're only looking at the castle from one perspective, like the front and preferably a corner angle. So we're not going to be like traveling around the whole thing. So we only have to have like this kind of a camera angle. Okay, now I'm going to do a bool here, but I can't do a bool with 3 objects. So I'm going to combine these 2 together, the cubes, and then use those as a hole to punch, a tool to punch a hole in the tower. So let's rename this tower so you know what it is. All right. So these cubes have to be combined. They can't be combined if they're primitives. So I'm going to select them both and then simply go over to my tool, make editable. Now they're polygons. Polygons can be connected. So we go to mesh conversion, connect objects plus delete. And then that becomes a single cube, and now I can make my bool. So bool, and then we drag in the cube, and then the tower will be left over with a hole in it, and we should have holes that go all the way through to the other side even, okay? And so we can even put a light in there shining out and all kinds of stuff. All right, now my tower is a little boring though, now that I'm looking at it. And I think we should spice it up, and I've thought of a better way to do the tower. So I'm going to undo this bool, and I'm going to delete the tower, and we're going to do a new one. And I'm going to add 5 by 5 segments, a little bit of review here, and then convert it, and then go to my polygons tool. And this time I'm going to drag out, I'm going to do some different stuff here to make my tower more detailed. So what I do is I'm going to extrude it up, And then I'm going to extrude it up again, and then I'm going to scale that a little bit, just like I do a normal shape. So you can use your tools here. I can even, drag it out if I want it to be taller. And then I'm going to go to the shortcut, but remember, Create Tools, Extrude is where we go. But you can always go to, once you've done it, it'll be here in the shortcut area. So I'm going to create like a couple of bevels here. So I extrude, and then I could go to loop selection and like get like a whole area like that, and I could extrude that out. And then I could go ahead and hold down my shift key and get the whole top portion again. There's, you could just freestyle this, and you don't really need to have a plan unless you found something on the internet, or you just can't picture it in your mind's eye. And then you want to maybe keep that picture after you download it, like close by, like this, in the background, where you can kind of like, go and view it here and there. There's a way of bringing it into your computer too as a background here, but we're not going to do that yet. So I'll just put that back in the dock. That's using preview here. But now I can go ahead and extrude this stuff up again, or I could take and do a loop. I might not be able to get that. I have to kind of swoop around it. I'm going to put my tool back at 10. There's no need to have it back at 5 still, and that'll make it easy for me to get the whole top here, because I think I want to keep doing more detail. So it's kind of good that I'm sort of flopping around here with no plan, so you can kind of see how to approach it. All right, I'll go ahead and extrude it a little bit more, and then you extrude a little bit, you go to your scale tool and just click off and to the side and extrude it, and pretty soon you'll start getting some like neat little bevels. And we're not doing that much modeling on here, so you might as well put as much detail as you can on your castle tower. And I think now that I don't want this to be too long, so I'm going to do the flag on another. All right, so now we get to the point where we can start, dragging out our battlements. And then, towers would flare out like this to make it harder to lean a ladder against it and climb up into it from a lower level. So that's why you flare it out and stuff. All right, so what should we do here? Let's start bringing out the battlements like we did before. So this will be the third time that I've done this. And we're not going into the tower, so don't worry about that. Extrude. Don't make these too short or they look weird, and if you make them too tall, they look like teeth. So you gotta be just right. And then I like to top them off with a bevel to give them a nice little extra oomph. And we'll be looking at it like this. All right, but let's do a few more details here to the tower just for fun. So we're gonna go do a loop selection, and then maybe I'll extrude this out. Oops. I still had those polygons up there selected, so make sure you deselect. I held down my shift key, bad habit. And then I'll extrude that out a little bit, create a nice little bevel. We can, I don't know, just kind of thinking of weird stuff that we can do. We could go here and get the whole corner. Let's see what that looks like if I extrude it. That looks fairly interesting, except I want to get that part as well. And remember, you're only looking at it from like a corner, so if I'm going to do something like this, it wouldn't be necessary for me to even model the back corner unless I was. I'm just going to do it for the sake of it. And then we'll see what that looks like when I extrude. Looks kind of cool. All right, so we've added some detail. Just, you know, wing it, see what you can come up with. And now we can create a bool. All right, so we need to take these two cubes and bool them. So that's the tool. It goes in the bool first, then the tower left over with a hole in it. And now we're back to where we were before. Okay, and then I'm gonna paste in here some textures, but oh, I didn't grab them. We'll go over here and get them. I don't really need all these. Let's just get that and that and that. And that and that and that. Alright, so we'll copy textures. Remember, you can go to edit, copy your textures, go to a whole new file, and paste your textures. When you work on multiple stuff, you will have under window all the files that you have open. You can see I have a billion files open. These are all cinema files, and I can just go back and forth and copy between and paste between files. So here I am on my new one. If I wanted to copy something from this one, I could go copy this one and then go to my current one I'm working on and paste it. So I made some materials. I'm going to make some new materials here just so you have the skills to do so. All right, now tubes. And you know, if I wanted if I wanted this part down here to be like deeper, just before we get started on I could select it and just push it down farther. You know, I went too far. I went through the floor right there. All right, now let's do the circle part of the tower. So that was a tube shape that we'll do the circle part with. And when you go back to your modeling tool over here to the side, and your arrow tool, and this is where you can just adjust by hand to get the thickness of it. I probably should have made my square one a little bit thicker. This is kind of too skinny of a tower for my taste, but you'll get the idea. Alright, so on the tube shape, you have to give it more segments, but it has too many right now. So I think this has to be an odd number now, if I remember, or an even number, because the tower is odd. So let's go with, I don't know what a good number would be, but let's try 28. All right, we'll convert it. If that doesn't work out, then we'll reevaluate. I'm going to select every other just to see. I'm sure this is all some sort of math equation, but personally, I am not a math person. I don't like math. All right, see there, that didn't work out. Let's try and look at different number of segments. How about 26 or even 24? We don't want to go too low because the tower will lose its roundness. You can kind of see it gets angular. Let's see if I can just get these the way they are. Boop, boop, and boop, and there we go. Even number works. So the tower's even, the cube is odd, I suppose. I don't know if I want it this thick either, so I'm gonna go back. And you just, it's easy to just undo and manipulate it. It's, we're not doing that much modeling, so it's not going to take you that long. I think I'm going to make my walls thinner there is basically what I wanted to do. I kind of should have done that with the square tower. They're a little too thick for my taste. But you could take care of that when you do yours. And again, this is just a review, and we're going to go over it in class as well. So, all right, so let's go ahead and convert that and do that again. So back to our modeling tool, and we're doing more polygon work now than we did on the spaceship, and then we're working our way towards a haunted house, haunted forest game level design where we're going to do a hell of a lot more polygon modeling. So we're kind of building up with these, and I'm kind of going back and forth just to show you like how you can change it and modify it. So do I want to drag out my battlements right now, or do I want to do the same thing I did to the tower? I think I want to do the same thing I did to the tower, so it's kind of jumping the gun. Let's kind of extrude that a little bit, and then you extrude it again a little bit, and then you scale it out a little bit, and then you extrude it a little bit, and then every time you drag when you extrude it creates another set of polygons, and then I'm using the scaling tool to scale it up. I'm just giving it some bevels. I mean, not like a bevel that I just touched on, but actual bevels. And little tiers and levels and just detail. And extrude. Scale tool. There we go. Okay, so I think that's enough. And now we can like drag out the battlements on it. Okay. So don't just like be like boring and dull and just like add some stuff to this. Make it more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. All right. And this makes a great portfolio piece too if you do a nice castle. Extrude it up, not too far, not too short. I mean, short doesn't look too bad, but when it's too far, it does look pretty stupid. And we'll bevel it. All right, now what kind of details can we bring out on this sucker? Well, let's see. Now, we could go ahead and get some pieces here. Like so. Remember, you're not doing the whole castle, but sometimes if you are going to play around with different angles, or sometimes it's hard for some people to get their flag to behave properly and it's blowing in a direction opposite of what they wanted it to blow in, so it might pay to just do the whole thing on all sides. So we're going to extrude that out. I don't quite like the way that it popped out that way, so maybe I'll, as I'm experimenting, with it, deselect that little polygon right there and see, is that the culprit? You know what I think is actually the culprit, all of it. Let's, I'm holding down my command key, and whoops. we're gonna just roll over all the top pieces, just deselect those. So you can just, roll over like you're painting to add or subtract. And we'll just do those bottom ones because I think the top ones are gonna be problematic. I mean, we can fix them, but I haven't shown you how to do that yet. So we're gonna go ahead and extrude them out. I could also extrude them in, but then it creates like that little paper thin corner right there. So I don't think that'll be a good idea. I'm gonna extrude them out. I think that looks pretty cool. And then we'll see what some loop selections can do for us. So let's deselect, just click in an empty space somewhere so I could go ahead and get that whole area and extrude that out. Well, that looks kind of neat. And then click in an empty area and go to loop selection. Shortcut, extrude, just a little bit. That looks kind of cool. All right, so we've added some interesting details. Let's put an arrow slit in the top tower as well. And you know what? I think my top tower is really, I'm getting too tall because remember, we're going to look at a perspective like that and I don't want it to be too big because then the flag ends up being really small at the top. So let's push the tower, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let's go back to our modeling tool and push the tower down a little bit. That's better. And then I'm going to copy that cube that we're creating arrow slits with, just in case we want to try and do that with the top part up here. So make a second bool and throw in the tube blast. And then we'll kind of like observe what we've done. Don't worry, a lot of people are like, oh my God, what are all these weird? If we were doing this professionally, we wouldn't use a bool, we would model it in because it creates these weird polygons, these little triangles, which are, they have a name, I forget, n-gons. They create these n-gons and they're not true polygons and they cause texture issues sometimes, but we don't care because we're just getting started. So later though, when we do more complex stuff, we will definitely take the time to avoid that. So now, doesn't my tower look a little bit nicer than it did if it was just plain, like I dragged out the battlements from a tube or a square and didn't put any bevels or any of these edges or anything on it? All right, so now the textures, do the textures. And then lastly, I mean, if you wanted to put like a different roof on this or whatever, there's also the possibility of taking a cone and let me show you just some extra ideas. I'll go over more of the extra ideas in class. So this is just your basic tower review, but if I add more segments to a cone, like the height segments, like 24, that'll give it more ability to bend. And then if I take a bulge deformer, remember that, we went over that for doing the rocket. And if you go bulge it inward, not outward, you can create, say, if you wanted to do an Aladdin's tower, type of castle, like that Arabian type of castle that you see, or say Basil's Cathedral, you could. I'd be okay with that. That would look kind of cool if someone wanted to try that. But I'm going to go inwards this time, so it creates sort of like a Rapunzel, sort of witch's hat. I'm going to make it taller. Witch's hat type of tower top, where you kind of get that subtle curve. Looks pretty groovy. I'm going to convert it. Remember, we always convert that crap. We go to current state to object, and then just get rid of the original so we don't end up with junk, because that stuff is just, it's to your processor, it's this awful crap. It slows everything down because it's got to recalculate that deformer thing. So now as just the shape, even though this has more polygons and stuff to it, it's going to be easier for you to maneuver around and stuff. You can just sink it down on your battlements like that, or not even have battlements up there, and then put your castle flag at the top there. Now, to make textures for these things, we have them already established, so you just have to go to color and go to the button, and inside of your student lessons folder, there is a Cinema Texture and Materials folder, and it's called Castle Text. Cinema Textures and Materials Castle Text, and Stone 48LB is the one. And then that has a bump map. We haven't used those yet. Bump map makes it, tries to make it have physical, like nooks and crannies and ups and downs and lows and highs, like, and the texture itself rather than on a smooth object. So we're going to go to bump this time, and on the bump map you always put a grayscale file, and there's a color one that that one goes on color, and then this one goes on the bump. That'll create a bump map for you, and then you can have a strength on how far it bumps it out. You can play around with that. And then we need maybe a roof texture, and we might use these textures again on our haunted house, at least some of them. So under color, we go to, you won't find the roof texture in Castle Text, but if you go back to the student lessons, you'll find a haunted house tower. We got to go to Cinema Textures and Materials, and then haunted house text, and then there is one that says roof, the roof, and bring that. That doesn't have a bump map, but sometimes what you can do if there's no bump map, you can create one in Photoshop, just start grayscaling the file and fiddling it. Or if you're going to be lazy like me today, you can just go ahead and check it off and go get the same exact file, and it won't have any of the lighter areas, but the dark is definitely there, and the dark parts can create some in between the tiles type of stuff. So we can use the same picture as the bump in that case. All right, so we throw our, forgot. We got all these bools. Do we want to keep that? Nay. So we're gonna, nay. I'm speaking in medieval. We're gonna go to the object and do a current state to object, which will turn it into polygons, and then we can go conversion, connect plus delete, and delete the original, and then go to the other one. Make sure you get it all. If you only get the parents, the children will remain that color, like a different color, meaning you didn't get it. So go to current state to object, unroll that, get all the pieces parts, connect plus delete, and then now, ye student, we can throw the textures on there. Now, what's going to happen though is the textures are going to go what? And they're going to get all stretchy and weird. And like the textures on the tower get a little wacky too. This is where we might want to go to like tile them in a little bit more to get them to fit, and then also on the brick part, if you click on the tag, it's on UVW mapping for projection right now, and sometimes that just doesn't work. So we could try something else like cubic will usually work. And let's turn off the grout shading and lines back to grout shading, and you can kind of see it looks pretty decent. I mean, the bricks are not all in the perfect space, but no one's going to notice. So we're going to go to the next one and take it off UVW mapping and put it on cubic. I'm going right there where it says projection, and then remember down here tiles U and tiles V over here. Those are the two that you want to change to tile it in more. So if you wanted to have like bigger bricks on the bigger section of the castle, you could go like 0.5. And then if you wanted to go like smaller, you can go a higher number, and vice versa and all that stuff. All right, so my castle tower is complete for now. We're gonna look at it like with that kind of perspective, so that's why I say don't get too tall. I don't really like my cone top one there. I delete it. So you got to find that perfect sweet spot to view it in. There's our castle. All right, and we're going to, and if you want to find your own brick texture for the castle, be my guest. You could go on the internets and look for 3D castle. I spelled castle wrong. Castle text. and that was very unsuccessful. Brick texture. Oh, I put text. Texture. Got to tell the internet's what to do. And you might find one that you can, like this kind of thing, you could download that and turn it into a, if it's tileable. I mean, this one doesn't look tileable. It kind of looks like the one I'm using, so I mean, what would be the point of that? But you might find some freebie ones here if you search high and low, that you can download and do that yourself. All right, so there is your castle in a just basic and messed up, unorganized form that I did it in, but it still works. So we're gonna do this for a couple weeks, so it's gonna be like slow project, and then I'll do another separate flag lecture review. All right, see you in class. Bye. Or should I say farewell, or good journey, trying to be more medieval.